We are now live on the air. Dun,
Right,
dun,
so
dun.
I should probably record for the bicentennial episode.
Yeah, I was wondering how big a deal we should make about that.
I mean, I remember using the word sesquicentennial during our 150th episode. So
We could do.
And that-
Whoa, that was loud. Audio Sounds good. It's really loud.
cool.
All right. All right. Any questions, comments, things, anything I need to know about before we get started?
Do you want to do all these news stories?
Well, I thought we would do the discussion first and then run the news as we have time.
Okay, so you want to do the discussion, then do this first news story, or the cyber world wants you, because I mean that's talking about the need for cyber professionals and cybersecurity professionals, and that would be a great lead in to why the Linux Academy would be a good starting point for that, and then we could because that way we kind of serve as a natural transition.
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to,
maybe we should start there. Right, do the stuff at the top. We don't have any listener feedback, whatever. I don't want to bury the ad. I have been guilty of doing that recently. So let's do the intro stuff, then lead with that, and then go to the topic, and then back.
Okay.
Oh, that didn't happen, huh?
Well, I didn't get the offer, but well, I'll talk about it during the show. So.
Oh, there's noise. Where's that noise coming from? It's coming from your channel. I must have something laying on something.
I hear nothing.
No, it's an electrical hum. I've got a cable laying across another cable or something. And it's not a big deal. I can filter it, but I didn't hear it till I turned my air conditioner off. Okay. Let's start recording and do this thing.
I am recording
7:32. 2 minutes later than we say we're going to start. That for us is a big deal.
Yeah.
Tell the chat room the feed is up. And by the feed I mean the two people who were there. It's funny, we have people camping in there all the time. We have discussions that range, all day and night. Not lots of them, but there are discussions, except when the show is being recorded and then nobody's there.
Well, I don't know. Isn't one of Leo's shows on now?
I don't know. I have no idea what his live schedule is. I don't. I download stuff, but no idea what the live schedule is. I do know that it's not uncommon for us to talk about something on Sunday nights that he talks about on Sunday afternoon, the Twitch show.
Right.
And then on Monday morning, when I'm listening to the Twitch show, I'm like, we just talked about that last night. And then Wednesday, our show comes out and makes it sound like we're total copycats.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of times I talk about stuff I hear on Steve Gibson. So, I mean, we are.
Yeah, but even when we're not, it still seems like we are. Okay. All right. Let's go.
All righty.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux episode 200. And I'm not on the right page. Stay classy, San Diego. I'm Ron Burgundy. Just watched that last night. All right, one more time. Hello, I can't do it. Serious time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux episode 200, To Share or Not to Share, recorded August 9th, 2015, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week, he's here all by himself, but he's enough, is Seth, the GUI Kid Anderson. Hello, Seth.
Hello, everyone, and bicentennial greetings to one and all. Woo!
Yes, we've hit the 200 mark. I'm not sure that really means much, because I don't think our shows are numbered. Actually, a listener who was apparently going through the whole feed, poor guy, sent me an email. It was one line email. Actually, it wasn't even one line. It was a number and a question mark, and it was like 176 question mark. And I don't even remember the number now, but whatever it was 3 years ago when I took a break, and when I came back, we skipped a show number. Like, you guys ended on 1, and when we came back, I incremented it by the wrong number. I never noticed that.
I remember us talking about the lost episode. So that vaguely, through the cobwebs of history and peering back over the grand facade that is the Element OP Network, I seem to recall mentioning a lost show somewhere.
So this may not actually be episode 200, or then again, we may have some other episodes in there that somewhere in the 200 neighborhood, but we're going with 200. So what is that? If we did all 52 episodes a year, that would be 4 years, but we haven't done that. But yeah, we've been at this more than 4 years.
Yep.
I think April was 4 years.
I don't remember when the first one came out.
If only there was a place where you could go to find these things, perhaps some repository of information. Let's see.
The
EDL.
library? Why would they have that?
elementop.com/EDL/1 was posted on April 5th, 2011. So yeah.
Wow.
4 years and some change. And by the way, if you didn't know that, you can go elementop.com/EDL/any episode number, except that missing one, and jump straight to the show. But I don't remember what the missing one was. If you find it, let me know. I can't do anything about it. I'm not going to go renumber all the shows. What I might do.
Yeah. Oh, what we need to do is Rickroll them.
Yes, that would be awesome. So the missing one is just a link to. Oh, that's beautiful.
That would be great.
Or better yet, take it one farther, and it'd be a link to some Apple fanboy show.
Oh, no, we can't do that. Some things are just.
Oh, I lost you. Some things are just what?
Too cruel.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to tell you that since we are a Linux show, naturally the first thing I got to talk about is Windows. I upgraded my laptop to Windows 10, the one compatible machine that I have in the house. My old desktop is still running Vista. That's how old it is, and they won't upgrade it. But my laptop, the little thing popped up, said your Windows 10 upgrade is ready. I clicked OK. Took, I don't know, 40 minutes. Took longer than I thought it should. And in fact, at one point, one of the screens that popped up said, "This is taking longer than it should," which made me laugh. But ho hum, it's cosmetic differences. I'd actually would have been very upset if they had charged me for that. Have you had any experience with Windows 10, Seth?
I don't like Microsoft betas, so I don't play around with them. And honestly, I really don't want to upgrade any of my machines to 10. Because I don't really like to change just for change. There's no compelling reason to upgrade. I'm happy with Windows 7, and I'm happy with Windows 8 or 8.1 with the classic shell on it.
So the classic shell went away. Obviously, there's nothing to hook into anymore. It just went away. But there's a start button now. So I click on that, and it's essentially the start screen smaller, and now you click a start button to get to it.
Well, that was what 8.1 was.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
And the Cortana's there. My laptop doesn't really have enough features. It's a cheap one. It couldn't do location. Well, I guess it probably could have, but location's kind of pointless when I don't move it anywhere. What I did notice was Windows 10, because it's one OS for all devices, there were a lot of mobile centric things in there.
Right.
Settings for mobile web that are useless to me. I played with the Edge browser, which is IE. It's looks a lot like Chrome. I was utterly unimpressed, but at the same time, it didn't cause my world to come crashing down.
Well, and by default now, Microsoft tracks you on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Whereas before they kind of did that incognito, but now they just come right out and say, hey, you're sharing all your information with us,
Right.
and that's the way we like it.
But what I did notice, I went through the control panel, went through all the settings, and they really do spell out everything. We want to track everything you type. Here's why we want to track everything you type. Here are the apps that can track everything you type. I like that, actually. They're being very open about it. They're still greedy, but they're open about their greediness.
Yeah, it's I mean, this is really playing into the topic for the show tonight, but it's why I don't have a flashlight app on my Android phone, because you go to download the flashlight app, this app, and it basically says wants to root your phone. And I'm like, no, it's your flashlight. You don't need to know who I'm talking to, how long I've talked to them, and who my contacts are. You're a flashlight. So therefore I don't have one. And I'm not updating some of the software because the updates require those enhanced permission for stuff that there's no reason other than the advertising API wants to be able to, be able to collect my mother's maiden name, social security, and last 17 pets for tracking purposes.
Tesla LED is the flashlight app I use. It has no permissions. Check it
Tesla
out.
LED.
Tesla LED.
I will have to check that out.
And so one other thing I want to talk about, we've talked in the past about the EDL app that fellow named Kaiser has been working on. He has decided to branch out and make it an app that can load any feed. But he and I have been working really closely about this as to how to build this. And it's not going to be where you can upload any feed you want, right? Because then you're creating a community around somebody else's content without their consent or even knowledge. So we kind of decided that was a bad idea. So you have to petition to be added to this app, which I think is the right way to do it. It's going to slow. It'll be like a Last FM or some of those things where you have to, somebody has to add you up. And so we're working, it's still really beta, but I just wanted to, he's rebranded it Zcast. And you can find that on any of our recent episodes. All of the links that used to go to the EDL app are broken because I just realized that I need to fix that. But they're in the most recent one. It's the link there's for Zcast. It's on our website right now. That's the only place it is. You can't get it in the store because it really isn't ready for prime time. But we need people to pound on it. Even if you pounded on the old one, massive changes to this new one, including the back end. Now it ties into your Google Plus profile. So if you already have a Google Plus profile on your phone, boom, you're logged in there. Due to the way that his back-end system is currently working, you have to have a Google Plus profile. You can't just, like, for example, my apps account, I don't have a Plus profile. It won't let me log on. That is a bug, not a feature, not a bug. But I hope in time that we can work around that feature, because I do think we shouldn't force everybody to have a G Plus profile, but right now that's the way it works. But I encourage you to please go check it out. Go to my it's I think the link is just elementop.com/file/Zcast. But Zcast.apk. Go to the notes for this episode and click the link. That's the much easier way to do it. But please do check it out. It requires no permissions. It's I'm telling you that it's safe. I've been testing it. The only reason it's not in the store now is not so it can't be vetted, but because it's just too raw and we don't want to put it out there on the public. But I do want you guys, I need some of you, the more, the better, to go and to download it and use it and test it and give us feedback about it. We know that the landscape orientation is pretty craptastic right now. So just keep it in portrait mode for now. But please do check it out. What I'm saying is I need you to be beta testers. Microsoft doesn't say that. They say, hey, we've got a new thing. If I were, but they're really asking you to be beta testers there too. So anyway, Zcast app, check it out. I'm super excited about it. I really think that with time, this is going to be the podcast app I've always wanted.
Yeah, it sounds really, really awesome.
Yeah. It's going to have moderation features. It's going to have, you'll be able to assign moderators. It already has toast notifications so that when somebody comments on something, like as you're going along and listening to the episode, when somebody made a comment there, it'll pop up a toast notification to say that there's a comment at that time code. Really cool stuff. And again, still very beta, but even in its beta form, it has me super excited.
Cool.
Excellent color commentary, Seth.
Not the best color man in the business for nothing, Mark.
Doesn't really say that here.
Yeah.
I was saying before the show that I just watched Anchorman again last night because I was in the mood for some brilliant stupidity, and Anchorman definitely qualifies as that. Anchorman 2, I think, is heavier on the stupidity and lighter on the brilliance, but I still like them both. But Major League, the thing we were just quoting there, also brilliant stupidity.
Yes, the first one.
Yeah. The second one, it holds its own. Okay. The third one just didn't need to happen.
And then was Back in the Minors, was that the fourth one or was that the third one?
That was the third one.
That was the third one. Okay.
Yeah. Was there a fourth? I hope there wasn't a fourth one.
The one was, are you thinking the one with Scott Bakula in it?
Maybe where the little Asian guy who had his marbles.
Right.
Yeah. That was the third one.
Okay, too bad there's not some.
If only there was some resource online where these kind of answers could be had.
Okay, so it looks like there were only three: Major League, Major League 2, and then Major League Back in the Minors. So
the internet has killed the bar bet. People used to go out to the bar and have an argument and say, I bet you $20. And then they'd go back and they'd pull out their LP and look at the liner notes and say, yeah, it was 1976. But now it's just, okay, Google. My wife was filling out some forms the other day for kids. Can I just rant just a little bit? I have 3 kids in the same public school system. Why make me fill out the same blankety blank form for all 3 kids when it's all the same information? And I put all 3 kids' names on all 3 of them, but it was just insane. They kept sending the same form home, literally the same form, the same like mimeograph glitch in the same upper left-hand corner, the exact same form every teacher sent home. And we had to fill out. Stop it. Have you ever heard of SurveyMonkey? I could do this. You don't even need to build an infrastructure for this. You could do this with a Google Sheets survey. Stop it. But anyway, you see,
then we wouldn't be killing trees, and it would be good for the environment, and it would help cut down on the stress, Mark.
You can't have that.
All of these things you were mentioning, that's going to take away from the self-help lobby. It's going to take away from the environmental lobby.
The Xanax
take
lobby.
Away from the teachers union and the pharmaceutical industry. How dare you try to destroy capitalism with Google of all things?
So I while she was filling out the form, my wife needed her work phone number. She didn't ever call her work phone number. She doesn't know what it is. She has her boss's cell phone number, right? And I think a lot of people are probably the same. I have to look up my home phone number every time because I don't know what it is. So she was like, her phone wasn't within reach because she was just going to look at the contact on it. She asked me, do you have my work number saved in your phone? And I looked at her inside and went, okay, Google, what's the phone number for? Yada, yada, the name of the business. And it spoke the number back out to me. And I was like, why don't you just trust the Googles? Just trust the Googles. And you don't have to type anything. In fact, she went to a birthday party on Saturday. And she said, I need the invitation so I can type in the address to my GPS. And once again, I rolled my eyes and said, okay, Google, navigate to, and read the address off on her phone. I grabbed her phone and did that. It's like, just stop it. Stop typing, people.
But typing is quieter. So it's more peaceful to just
When you're on that 17th time that you've typed Waldo and it keeps saying Waldorf, and you're like, that's not quieter because you're going, ah!
yeah, there is that. But again, I'm trying to keep the pharmaceutical self-help and anti-stress med societies, you know, it's expensive to have those jets and Caribbean getaways, Mark. They need money too.
So what's causing you stress in your life, Seth?
Well, I am still looking for a job. I had some really good interviews, and I got a call like Thursday night at like 7:30 from this one firm that I think it would be cool to work for. And they said they were going to shoot me a job offer the next day, and it didn't come. So I'm hoping it was just they were busy, and then hoping I'll get it Monday. And then there's another company too. So it looks like I'm going to have like to actually make a choice, which I hate making a choice between jobs. So I like to take the first one and run. But if two arrive virtually simultaneously, I might have a mental breakdown or something.
So maybe you could find one that's less than a 7-hour commute for you. That would be awesome.
You know, I mean, here's the thing: 70 miles for $60,000 or 40 miles for $45,000. That's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, that's enough money to where it's worth it to drive the extra in the car.
Well, and it depends on what those 70 miles are. If it's 70 miles at 70 miles an hour, do it. Right. Where I live in northern Atlanta, 70 miles is literally an all-day trip.
Yeah. That's for me, it's like 55 miles at 75, 80 miles an hour, and then 15 miles at 5 to 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's okay. Go.
That's it. We're done. I'm cutting you off. We don't have any listener feedback this week. You guys took a break when we took a break. Stop it. Want to jump in? We have what I think is an interesting topic. It may, in fact, take us 7 minutes to discuss it because I'll say my part and Seth will go, yeah. And that'll be that. We'll just have to see. But we're going to jump into that in about a minute. But first, we have to do this article about IT jobs growing, and the computer world needs you.
Yes, this is from Tech News World. So, and the title of the article is "Cyber Warrior Demand Outpaces Supply," and kind of the takeoff is there aren't enough soldiers to fight the good fight. And we're not talking Cybermen for all you Doctor Who fans, cyber soldiers. Cybersecurity jobs have grown 3 times faster than IT jobs generally in the last 5 years, and that growth doesn't seem to be letting up, noted Burning Glass CEO. This is not a flash in the pan phenomenon. The level of skill required to get cyber jobs makes this a tough problem to solve. So there are, you know, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be tons of entry level positions, but there seems to be tons of uber qualification required positions. So, you know, the cyber world needs you.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I thought about this article is that they say that there's a shortage of certified people, not necessarily people that know how to do the job. The trick is that our generation, the 40-somethings in tech, we grew up doing this stuff. We grew into the jobs, right? We were the guy who kind of knew something, and so we became the local expert, and then 15 years later, we know how to do everything in this narrow field, which is exactly what a certification tells you. I know how to do everything in a certain field. But I, for example, don't have any of the certifications. 15 years as a Windows AD administrator, I don't have a Microsoft certification. More than a decade of experience as a Linux server admin, I don't have any Linux server certification. So when I go to get jobs, people look at me and say, you don't have certs. And oftentimes they don't even get past that section of the resume. They'll jump straight to your certs and your education and not even get to the part where you look at your experience. And that's frustrating, but it also is the world. So what the Tech News World is saying is you need to go get a certification.
Yeah, you really do, because you need the certs to get past the hiring manager to where you can regale the actual supervisor with your experience in war stories. But unfortunately, experience in war stories don't translate good to a 1 or 2 page resume.
Right.
So, but then again, you know, like a lot of the security certifications like the CISSP like the first requirement is you have to have 5 years documentable in the security field.
Right.
So me, I have like, 12, 13 years in the tech field, but I only have like 2 of that is documentable in the security field when I was working for McAfee end user support. So I don't qualify for the CISSP, which is a pretty well-known security certification. So for a lot of once you get past kind of the entry level certs, they are more a reflection of experience rather than a way to open a door that otherwise wouldn't be
Right.
open.
I have a former student that I follow on Facebook, who was one of my computer students way back when, and he is forever posting about many years my junior, but has way more certifications than I do, and even though he has way less experience than I do, he'll be able to get a job anywhere. And in fact, he's worked all over the world because he's got as an old fuddy-duddy, I would like to say you should look at the character of a man. You should look at the quality of his work. You should look at his experience. But I also recognize that certs are the thing, and it has held me back in my career. Quite honestly, it's held me back in my career not to have certifications. I went the college route. Having that degree has helped, because there are still a lot of jobs that won't even open the door if you don't have a college degree. But not having the certs has hurt more, I think, than the college degree has helped.
And again, we've had that discussion before. Part of that depends on which field you're going into.
Right.
If you're going into an education field, a college or a university, they are going to place a lot more value on having a degree versus having certs. But and again, some of the industries, it just kind of, and then you get down to, well, what is this hiring manager like or whatever. So it can be a plus or it can be a minus, but by and large, you are correct. The certs in the technology field open more doors than the degree does.
And at this point, I would be the worst podcast host in the history of podcasting if I didn't tell you about the linuxacademy.com, the place where you can go to get your certifications. And we've heard me talk about them now for over a year. And it's not just because they write me a check. It's because I believe in them and because they write me a check. But they're all about getting you certified for the knowledge you already have. But they're also they have the word academy in their name. They don't have the word certification. It's not linuxcertifications.com. It's linuxacademy.com. Their job is to teach you, and they do this, the new way, the digital native way, video lessons, the YouTube way. But it's way more than just a YouTube lesson. They get your study guides, this amazing lab infrastructure that just has me super excited. And every time I talk about them, I hit this, because you don't get this anywhere else, at least not that I know of, where you can spin up to 4 different machines in their protected environment and play with them and break them, and they run on the Amazon web backend, so they're lightning fast to tear down and rebuild, and you can get real world experience in a virtual world environment, so that you can experiment, you can break things, and in the end they have certification pre-tests, and they're partnered with the LPIC and the IETI. Help me, Seth.
CompTIA.
CompTIA. Thank you. Yeah. It's anyway. Wow, CompTIA. They're partnered with these guys.
You're thinking of the IEEE.
That one.
Which, they don't really back a cert.
There's an CIETI. I have no idea. I'm going to say EIEIO because I can't remember. Anyway, they have partnerships with both CompTIA and Linux Plus, not because they're in the back pocket, but because these two organizations, CompTIA and the Linux Plus certification, the LPI, looked at them and said, "This is good content. We want to partner with you so that we can get more people who are taking your courses to take our certifications, because we recognize that more certifications in the world makes us look better and makes your students look better. It's a symbiotic relationship." And just recently they released a new OpenStack certification. That's kind of where the world is right now. You get your own pack of OpenStack Labs. You can fire up a server in less than 10 seconds. They've got a SQL courses, and they've got PostgreSQL, and they've got all kinds of new courses that they're adding all the time. Go check them out, linuxacademy.com. It's only going to cost you the most you'll ever pay. If you just want to dip your toe into the waters and say no commitment, no strings, $25. $25 will get you a month of access and a month of there's way more than you could do there in a month. So, but pay for it for $25. Pay for it for a month. Look at it. See if you like it. $25 is a gourmet pizza. It's not that big a deal. Every college kid can afford $25. Look around. It's a very minor commitment. And then if you like it, buy in bulk. Like everything else, the more you buy, the less you pay. If you buy for 3 months, you get $65 for 3 months, for a quarter. That's only, that's a $10 discount right there. If you buy annually, $215, which breaks down to less than $18 a month. So you can't lose price-wise, and you can't lose content-wise. It's a win-win. Check them out, linuxacademy.com.
Yeah, and the other thing to mention is the targeted learning aspect of it. You're not listening to some 4-hour lecture that you have to, the important content is somewhere around the 1 hour and 27 minutes mark. No, they're short, simple, easy to digest courses. You take this course, did you master it? No, go back and listen to that short lecture again. And it's a great thing to keep even after you've been through, because if you want a refresher, hey, how do I go and remotely connect to a server? I mean, okay, everybody knows how to do that, but that's one of the lessons. You do 5 minutes, you refresh that one particular been trying to say, oh crap, it's in here somewhere. And it's very easy to use like that. Targeted learning.
Yeah, the relevant information is somewhere around the hour and 27-minute mark. That's what it would be like if I did the lectures. If this podcast were the lectures, that's what it would be like. The relevant content starts at about 30. I've seen actual links that people have done to our shows saying, hey, so-and-so was on the Everyday Linux show. Go check it out. Interview starts at the hour mark. And a little bit. My family for the last, and this started when my youngest daughter was just a baby. My wife and I, prior to having children, were very active in our church. And I realized after the child was born that we were still super active in the church, but it was cutting into our family time. We weren't spending a lot of time together as a family. So to counteract that, we decided to claim both Sunday morning breakfasts and Sunday afternoon lunches. No matter what happens, those 2 times we're going to spend together as a family. Often the lunches are with friends, usually friends from church, out at a restaurant, but we do those things together. I keep those things. There's no meeting I'm going to let happen. There's no activity. Those are sacred to us. So there was a donut shop where we came from, the Kim's Donuts, a beautiful Vietnamese couple named the Kims. And so every morning we would go have breakfast with the Kims, or every Sunday morning. When we moved to Atlanta, the very first thing we had to do was find a good donut shop. And everywhere around here, there are Dunkin' Donuts. And if that's not a good donut shop, I'm sure that at some point in the world, somebody's had a fresh Dunkin' Donut and it was tasty. I've never had that experience. I've only had day-old Dunkin' Donuts. Because that seems to be all they sell around here. So after some searching, we found this little place, and I'm not going to tell you the name of it because I want to keep it all to myself. And we would go there, and the donuts were delicious. And we could always get right in. We've gotten to know the family there. They know us because we've been there, 3 years, 50 Sundays. We've been there 150 times. And so we've gotten to know them. And as soon as we walk in, they know what we're going to order. But the problem is over the last 18 months or so, maybe 2 years, and now we'll get there some mornings and there's a line out the door and around the sidewalk to get these donuts. They're that good. Or maybe it's that other donuts around here are that bad. So as I'm sitting on the edge of the bed this morning, putting my socks on, getting ready to go out, it occurs to me, I wonder how busy the donut shop is. And I thought to myself, there's no reason I shouldn't know that. That data is knowable. That data is easily knowable. Between Android and iOS, you've got pretty much every household in this area covered. There, this is an affluent, relatively area of North Georgia. Everybody here has at least one smartphone. In many cases, I should be able to pull up, that data. Okay, Google, how busy is a donut shop? And it should be able to look into its database and say, well, over the last hour, X number of MAC addresses have gone into this place and X number of MAC addresses have left, and their average time between going in and going out was Y. So we can expect you to have an X wait, and there's going to be probably Y people there when you get there. There's no reason that data shouldn't be available to me, except that everybody's scared of, oh my God, tracking government money, bad, evil. And so it made me think, to share or not to share. That's the title of the show. Are we missing out on the benefits of anonymized, disaggregated data, or aggregated rather data, because we're afraid of what might happen with our personalized, disaggregated data? And my answer to that is yes, we're absolutely missing out on that. Take it, the donut shop app. If we could gather the health information of everybody in the country and anonymize that, aggregate it, throw it all together, and have that searchable, and say, show me patients with X BMI of X age who are on X medications, and show me their genetic sequence. There's no reason we couldn't all have our gene sequence now. 23andMe does it for $100. So we could all do that, and that would be a huge treasure trove. We could find causes of diseases. We could find potential cures for diseases. We could certainly find corollaries and correlations of diseases, but we're all scared to do that because my protected health information is the most important thing to me, and I don't want anybody to find out about it because evil. And when I talk to people, I can never get a good, solid, well-reasoned argument for why they don't want to share data other than bad people. So, Seth, tighten up your tinfoil visor here and talk me down off the ledge. Why should we be so scared of sharing that which is already known?
Dude, minds think along the same lines, because I was sitting in my room this afternoon thinking about the internal debate of open up my phone and just, bleep myself out there and tell everything I do versus keeping my data tight to my vest. And the best answer, it's not so much what happens to the data today and what happens to the sharing today. There's two words that are the reason I don't like it, and it's mission creep. Because, all of this won't happen. You could go back in time and see how your social security number would never be used for identification. That was one of the main reasons it was passed, is that it will never be used for an identification number. And now it is your identification number. So my data goes out there, and then the next thing you know, my insurance rates get jacked up because they see I go to Wingstop once a week, Wendy's 3 times a week, and the donut shop 4 times a week. I knew you were going to bring up the insurance company. I knew it. That's going to happen. And that's just one example.
But stop.
Okay,
The insurance company already knows that. They know that because you weigh freaking 400 pounds. I don't know that you do, but just for an example,
right.
And you go to the doctor and your cholesterol is high, and they already know this. They don't necessarily know that you go to this particular Wingstop every Tuesday, but they know you live an unhealthy lifestyle because
right.
you have the body of somebody who lives an unhealthy lifestyle. I'm saying you. What I actually mean is me. I'm pointing fingers back at me.
Right.
I'm a giant fat tub of man, and I am not because of genetics. People like to play that off. Well, I have a genetic tendency to being overweight. Okay, maybe that could account for 30 pounds of overweight. I am freaking 300 pounds overweight, or at least I was at my heaviest. What a lot of people don't know is I've recently lost about 60 pounds after in the past losing about 70 and then gaining 60 of them back. So I'm kind of back to where I had been a few years ago, but I'm in the process of recovering the man that I need to be by changing these habits. And the insurance company doesn't need to know that I go have donuts once a week. They need to know that, I'm 450 pounds. So I that's a straw man argument, and I just simply don't accept it.
Okay, but I wasn't using that as the reason. That was just in that aspect. You can pick any other thing, and it's will be the mission creep of the data going out there. If your information is out there, then it's easy to track and see so and so is not home because they checked in to Hawaii. So they're probably not at their house. So now everybody knows I'm gone. And then you're getting into security and the security of your friends, and then you've advertised a vacant house, and you've advertised pick any topic. And it's not so much because today it's new, it's out there, people are afraid of it, so companies are halfway interested in at least saying the right things. We will go, they won't care, and then it will be out there and it will be tracked, and you will say or do something that some have no control over, secrets that you don't want people to know. Not that you have, 4 petaflops of kitty porn stashed under the chimney at your house. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm just saying you don't want people to know your business.
Okay, but I'm going to stop you there, because
Okay.
you have just conflated my argument, and you do what the tinfoil hat people do all the time. You have just crossed over into secrets. It is no secret that I go have donuts. Everybody there knows that I go have donuts. Everybody on the road between my house and there knows that I go have donuts. That's not a secret. Every traffic camera that I pass knows that. This is not secret data. I'm not talking about sharing secrets, sharing public data that is already public. And that's the problem that the security nuts always jump to. They always jump from publicly known and knowable data to secrets. I'm not talking about making all your secrets public. People have the right to secrecy. For example, I've often heard it said, if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't have any fear of your data being out there. No, when I go to the bathroom and I'm taking a dump, I have nothing to hide about that. Everybody takes a dump at least once a day. That's sort of the natural cycle. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not afraid of it, but I don't want it broadcast on the internet, and neither do you, frankly. So there is such a thing as privacy. There is such a thing as secrecy, but this fear of sharing things that are already known, already public. When I go outside, by definition, I am in public. The only way I can keep all my stuff to myself is to never leave my house. So I'm gonna once again, I'm gonna reject that argument and throw it out. You cannot use secrets, because that's not what I'm talking about.
I'm just saying the more data that you put out there and the more coalesced and cross-reference it is, the easier it is for people to know your patterns,
Okay,
to
so
know your movement,
you just
to
hit on
know
it.
where you are.
You just hit on
So-
it. It's easier, right? It could already be done now. Anybody with a telephoto camera and a tank of gas could follow me around and know every restaurant I go to and everything I do. The same data that Google is tracking when they're tracking my GPS. It's just made it easier. Since when has easier been a bad thing?
I mean, like I say, I don't like it, because if somebody's following me around, then I have the chance to know they're following me around. If some hacker in insert place, Uzbekistan, Russia, China, or Dallas, Texas, if somebody is monitoring my my phone's MAC address on cell towers, I have no way to know that, and I have no way to take any steps to protect myself.
But what
or
is there to
disseminate-
protect? Somebody gathered public information that is
Right.
broadcast. You are carrying a radio transmitter with you that is pumping out that information to anybody with a radio receiver. It's not encrypted. It's publicly available data. So what are you protecting him from? You're protecting him from knowing that which you are broadcasting voluntarily everywhere you go?
Like I say, I know the arguments for them, and they don't convince me, just like the arguments against it don't convince you.
I you're not helping, Seth. You're supposed to be more of a nut about this. So I was talking with a guy at lunch today, good friend of mine, who will tell you he is a tinfoil hat privacy nut. So he doesn't. I'm sure he won't feel bad about me saying that. And he was talking about Wi-Fi routers and Google. When their street view cars were driving around, they were capturing that information, and he equated that to be, the Big Brother. I think he actually used those words, Big Brother watching you. And I used the same argument I just did with you. What did Big Brother do but gather that which you are already broadcasting? So what I think we need to do in this debate, and not just between you and me, but overall, when this conversation is had thousands of times a month or a year, even a day across the country, we need to separate secrets from public data. I want to make all public data easily available because I think the benefits of sharing public data far outweigh whatever contrived harm there is. There is no harm in sharing that.
I mean, I understand your point, and there might not be a harm in sharing it, but there's a harm in retaining it.
Why? So convince me.
Well, it was, we did this news story a few months ago where this guy did a Freedom of Information request. And there was a traffic 6 months every Tuesday at 9:45, his car is not there. If I'm like, what would be an easy street? What would be an easy house in this neighborhood to target tomorrow morning? I have an hour and I'm a cat burglar and my big gigs are later in the month and I need to be able to fence something. So look at this and say, oh, he's gone every Tuesday. So I'm going to go there. And if he's gone, I'll know he's going to be gone. But if it turns out he's there, then I won't do it. Whereas if that's too slow, again, I know you could say that's one example. And I don't like that.
And again, your argument comes back to it's easier for bad guys to be bad guys. But it's also easier for good guys to be good guys. Wouldn't you agree that tremendously, I mean, again, you have a different life than I do. You live in a rural area. You commute to, but there's only a couple of ways to get there. And you know what they are. Where I live, I take every trip with my GPS on. Not because I don't know where I'm going, but because up to the minute traffic data can mean the difference between a 30-minute commute and a 90-minute commute. And that Waze the app and the Google Maps app that collects the Waze data only knows that because people are sharing their data. That is a greater good that comes from people making easy to access. Yes, bad actors, it's easy for them too. But, I mean, easier is easier. Does it mean that lazy bad guys are going to be more bad than they would be? Were they before so lazy that it overpowered their bad guyness? And now that they had to rise to a certain level of bad guyness to overcome the laziness, but now the laziness threshold is way down, so just a little bit of a bad guy can be a bad guy now?
No, it makes the bad guy, just like it makes the good guys more efficient, it makes the bad guys more efficient, and they get more bang for the amount of time they invest in their being bad.
And I don't see that as a negative. I really don't.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm a private guy. I don't want people knowing stuff about me. So if I could do, like, if the stuff like, data and genetics and all that, if it could be randomized and disassociated from who I am and where I live, and it could just be, a guy in this general area, this general age has this health profile, I would be for that.
Okay. So you walked right into where I was going to go next. Okay. So what is the burden of proof there? You have set this thing. If this could happen, how does somebody prove to you that that's the case?
They don't, which is why I would not be for giving them my stuff.
You tinfoil hat people you always go to the same argument. And you're just a tinfoil visor person, but you're representing the tinfoil hats today. You always position of proving a negative. Once you prove that I cannot be hacked, well, I can never prove that I cannot be hacked. Nobody can ever prove a negative. So now you're putting a burden of proof on me so high. This argument that sounds good because you say, well, I'm a reasonable person. If you can prove to me, then I'll agree with it. But you've said high that it's entirely unreasonable, but you're trying to sound reasonable by putting unreasonable on it. So what you're saying to me, Seth, is that there's never a mechanism by which you would ever be comfortable with sharing, say, your genetic data publicly.
No, I'm not quite that far. There's a difference between saying we're going to store the thing that identifies this genetic profile with Seth Anderson of this address versus we're going to store the genetic profile of a, Germanic descendant man in his mid 40s who lived in East Texas.
Right. So so what's the mechanism by which you would accept that? Because once they have your genetic profile, there is exactly one of those in the world. So you are giving somebody the sum total of your uniqueness and trusting them to anonymize and randomize that. What's the mechanism? What's the threshold at which you would give that trust?
When the form for it does not ask for my name, my address, or my social security number or direct parentage.
But okay, but to use your own argument now, I'm going to turn it around on you. So now that I have this genomic information of one, all I have to do is search medical databases of every urine test that's ever been done, and I can find your name and your social security number and your parentage. So because the same technology that made it shareable also makes it easy for a bad guy to be a bad guy. Why is that acceptable?
Well, again,
so in order for your scenario to work, you would have to trust not only the people you're giving your genetic information to, but every doctor, every country doctor who's ever told you to pee in a cup. You got to trust them the same amount. I again think it's an unacceptable standard. I don't think you can ever get there.
I haven't considered that. I don't see me going down and doing a genetics test. So
what if I could prove to you mathematically, and I can't, but what if we're conjecturing? What if I could prove to you mathematically that if 100% of the 300 plus million people in the country submitted to a genetic sequencing, we could beat 5 types of cancer next year? Would that change your argument? Would that greater good argument make any difference to you?
I would have to consider that, but my first reaction would be no, but I would have to think about it.
And your first reaction is no because bad guys.
Well, just because I'm a private person and I don't want my stuff to be out there. I'm not talking good stuff or bad stuff. I'm just talking my stuff, period. I don't want it out there. I don't want it available for public consumption.
Okay. And I'm making the case of an all public lifestyle. Right. But I'm very careful when I'm on this show to never tell you where I live and what school my kids go to. I understand the value of keeping some things harder to get. It would not take much for you to find those things out. In fact, probably a Google search would show you that. But certainly I've given enough information in the last 200 episodes of this show that you could probably pull up in my driveway someday and say, hey, Mark, Tom McGillicuddy, nice to meet you. I accept that as a reality. And yes, other things would make it easier for you to do that, but it's already possible. And it's because it's already possible that I'm not so worried about it. Because the lazy people who won't do the Google searches now certainly aren't going to get in the car and drive to my house to meet me.
Right. But I at least like the illusion of privacy. So, and I understand there's very little private and far more of me is available to be pieced together from my digital footprint than I would like. I know that, but that's one of the reasons I don't want to give anymore, because so much of it is already out there for you to find. So, if you want it, go look for it and leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I know, is that stupid? Yes, that's stupid. But my privacy has been stripped from me, and I don't really have a choice in the matter.
What's
And that's
fascinating,
what I
though,
hate more than anything.
is this notion, this Western North American concept of privacy is historically very new. It only came to be in the last 100 years. There's just not a lot of things. Think about it. When your community consists of the 100 people around you in your village, what privacy is there, right? When you're a colonist in Virginia in the winter, and in the spring you had 12 kids, and in the summer you have 13 kids, all in your one bedroom house. How much privacy is there, especially so the concept of privacy only really developed culturally as we began to spread out and erect barriers, and it's something I've put a little bit of reading into, not great study, but it's not unique, but it's an unusual cultural artifact of the fact that we are separate, right? The American frontiersman left England, or left the East if he was born in America, and struck out on his own to make his own. And he struck out and he said, "This is my land, this is my house, and I will defend it with my life." And developed this concept of privacy, where sharing. You use the perfect phrase there. The information was stripped from me. I totally don't see it as that. It was never yours to keep. You are a member of a race of people, and there's certain amount information about you that simply buff that. And I don't understand why. But I guess I was born without that gene. I don't understand. I was also born without the filter what you say before you say it gene. So I recognize that there's certain ways that I just can't think like other people can, and I can't understand why they're with consent, right? So your whole argument comes around consent, right? If I consent to company A having this information, I'm assured that company B will get it without my consent. Have I hit on that? Is that pretty much the core of your argument?
That is definitely a large tent pole of it. But here's the thing, going back to what you were saying, in that small community, I know them, and I've made the decision to be in that community.
Good point.
If I don't want to know them, and I don't want them to know me, I'll go somewhere else.
So reciprocity seems to be a core value of trust, right?
And also friendship, and that goes back to reciprocity. But like my friends around me, they know me in detail. They know where I'm going to be, they know how I would react in a situation, and I'm okay with that because I've invested in that relationship. And you could talk about, well, you're investing in the common good, humanity, and all that BS you want to, but I part of it is I grew up pretty much by myself. My brothers are older to be of another generation, so I didn't have, and my parents worked, and so I stay with my grandparents a lot, so they're even older. So I kept to myself, and that's how I developed, is keeping to myself. So I value keeping to myself, and I don't like people coming in, and it's just like, and my mom, okay, my mom loves me, I know that, but like I hate telling her anything, because I'll say, "Hey mom, I got a job," and initially, well, blah blah blah, and then it's these barrage of questions that I don't have a chance to share or to tell the story or to tell anything before I get hit with all of these questions that are just taking the facts out and robbing me of the ability to share. So, and that's just part of my personality. I would rather share this information with you than you try to take it from me. So if you try to take it from me, that means I don't want to tell it to you, even if I did want to tell it to you before you started trying to take it from me. And that's part of my personality and who I am, I know. So, but yes, trust and community is missing in, whenever the interface is a screen of sand and pixels.
Need to stop real quick.
Okay.
You didn't talk long enough for me to turn it off and back on without you having to stop. So what I find interesting about that, Seth, going back to that concept of reciprocity, I'm trying to think how I can say that. So in my model, everybody shares everything. So would it not ease your conscience a little bit to know that for every bit of information you can get about me, so that reciprocity thing is in place, but again on a global scale? What is it that makes it different? Do you need a human connection from someone you can before that reciprocity value counts?
In a lot of ways, yes, because it's like I hate, IMDb is always, what did you think of this movie? Rate this, so we can tell you what you will like based on what you rated. I would rather go in and hunt through movies in the genre and find something and take the risk of watching this and going, cool, I loved it, versus I wasted my time. And that's more of who I am. It's just I value the archaeology of going to dig something up versus being handed something and says, here's what you might be looking for tomorrow. I don't like that.
I think though that we're going to get to the point where processing power is so readily available and storage is so readily available that everything that can be known, everything that is known, can be accessed in a moment. So I think that we don't have a choice. We're already going to be there. Now, it may not be your genome, right? But we're going to get to the point where the question of who's at that donut shop, you're going to be able to ask it and have a machine answer it using publicly available information. Traffic lights, cell tower information, all that sort of stuff. So I'm trying to phrase a question here. When that reality comes to pass, well, first off, do you agree with me that is going to happen?
Agree with you that it's going to happen, and the fact that I don't like it means it's going to happen all the more sooner. I understand this is the way Seth likes it, so because I like it this way, that tells me, based on my knowledge and experience, that a large majority of the population doesn't like it this way. I understand I'm in the minority camp here.
So when we get there, when the asymptotic curve of technology growth reaches that point where there is no different gathering and inferring information, right? Because as machines get better at making inferences, then they'll be able to tell you more answers with less information. So saying that we get there, let's say 10 years arbitrarily. When we get to that point, how are you going to feel? Again, it's conjecture, you can't know, but are you going to freak out about it?
Freak out, no. Lament, yes.
Okay.
So, I will be putting whatever resources I have towards the hopefulty of time travel, so I can go back and be like a Middle Ages monk, ascetic hermit guy. So I was born like 500 years too late. I need to be one of those wild desert hermits you read about, in some whatever class. So, but yeah, no, I understand that day is coming, and and it's not like freaking me out. I'm not gonna like do something stupid, but I will lament that something was lost. The ability to discover the way I like to discover. And you can argue that going in and seeing, population shifts and all that, there's discovery in there. I understand that. That's not the kind of discovery I like to do. Maybe I'll be close enough to retirement that I can just kind of ease on in there. So I don't like it.
Okay.
And
Get off my lawn.
Pretty much. Yeah. Whether it's evil or not, just get off my lawn. I'm not making a value judgment. Just leave me the bleep alone.
Because it's been a decade or more, probably closer to 15 years since Google rolled out Street View. And it was very limited at first, right? Street View couldn't tell you much information at all. It was like first there was the satellite maps. They gave you that data. And I remember the very first day I typed in my address and there was a picture of my house. It was an unsettling feeling knowing that anyone in the world could virtually walk down my street and see my house. Now I routinely virtually walk down streets and look at houses when I'm trying to find a place I've never been. It's Street View is now one of my favorite features of Google Maps. I love the fact that when I get a direction, it'll, when I finally get there, it'll say your destination is on the left and it pops up a picture of the office building I'm going to. So it took a decade, right? Well, the shift happened way before that, but in a decade's time, I went from being very uneasy about this to being disappointed to maybe even frustrated when Street View doesn't show me a picture of what I want to see. Did you have a similar experience?
See, I like the fact that if you type my address in, Google doesn't recognize it
because they've never sent a house down that old road.
Well, no. If I go on Google Maps and move the marker to my address, it shows what it looks like when I leave my driveway. I mean, I can see, like whenever my dad went to, he did a cruise out of New Orleans and I pulled up the destination, I did the maps and I printed the turn-by-turn things. And the very first picture is looking across the street from our driveway. So it knows, but luckily it doesn't understand my address and it just puts a marker in the town, in the center of the town. So closest to me. So, and I personally like that fact. I know it's hard because I can't tell somebody type this into Google and follow it here, but I take joy in the fact that my address does not show up.
So would you go so far as to never live in a place that is on the map? Or
no.
Maybe not never. If you were choosing a new home and you had an option, they're both rural, they're both the environments you like. You had an option between one whose address Google and one whose address Google didn't know. Would you choose the one? Which one would you choose?
Honestly, I wouldn't have considered it. That thought wouldn't have been in my mind, but now it will be. I'll never forget that. And I'll what is Google? Where does, so I don't know. It like I say, it's one of those things that it's coming, and there will probably be an update whenever, because I remember there was an update, and it's been maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where when I told people my address, I could tell it to them one way and it would work. But then there was an update, and within the space of about a week, every place where I would order something, I had a way for the software. So I know there will come a day when I type my address into Google and it will put the pin where it is. So it's coming. I understand. It's Agent Smith has me in the headlock and the train coming in. Do you hear that sound, Mr.
Sound of inevitability.
It is a sound of inevitability. And so, yes, it's coming, and I doubt I will have the strength to jump off the tracks and beat the crap out of him. So, I don't know. Like I say, I wouldn't have thought to search it out on Google and see, it doesn't show up, cha-ching. But I don't know. I think I would prefer the one that would not be the deciding factor in my choice, but that would be a factor in my choice.
So that goes on your decision making spreadsheet now.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you do make a decision making spreadsheet, right? What sane person doesn't?
Yeah, sometimes, it's just a mental 2 columns in my head, but that would be a factor. But like I say, that would not be the deciding factor.
People in my office laugh at me because I use a spreadsheet for everything. It's like, how did you come up with this? I used an Excel spreadsheet, used the concatenate formula, and the and then they just kind of roll their eyes and walk away. Yeah, there's nothing you can't do without a spreadsheet. So audience, what do you think? You've been talking to your phone or maybe yelling at it as you've been listening to this. Where do you come down? Am I not Pollyanna enough? Are you wanting to be, let it all hang out? Probably not. I know this audience fairly well, and I think that I'm probably on the extreme end of publicness for this audience. But I am interested to hear what you think. Specifically, I need a well-reasoned argument that doesn't end in bad people. I mean, I need you to tell me a logical reason other than this might happen. And then I also need to know an acceptable, discernible, achievable threshold at which you'd be okay with it, in that it all comes down to what you choose to believe. You can't convince me I'm just as unreasonable as the argument Seth put out. There are no facts you can put out. There's no threshold you can reach at which I will also never agree that there's zero value dead. I've actually heard that phrase on other podcasts, particularly in tech circles or education circles. Rather, are big on the whole publicness and openness thing, and on sharing. And I've heard people say, privacy is dead. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about and we didn't hit was the conflation of privacy and security. The Uber tinfoil hat people say those are the same thing. Privacy equals security. Security equals privacy. They're just not the same thing. How many times have we used the phrase over the years, security by obscurity is not security? So that does not equal security. You're not safe just because and you don't necessarily have to be private to be safe. What are your thoughts on that, Seth?
I would agree that they are not the same, but I will say there is a significant portion of overlap between them. You can talk about them, you can distinguish between them, but at the same time, there's a lot of elements that fall in both. And to a certain extent, privacy is an aspect of security that will be there. Again, it's not the only aspect, but and coming back to my philosophy, it's part of the same reason I don't like to beta test software, because it's too crappy, and security of all this public information is too crappy at the moment. So there will come a shift to where I'll use Windows 10. And then there will come a shift probably where I will be okay with being not quite so get off my lawn. I might not say get off my lawn, just don't touch my porch. So
leave the azaleas alone.
Yeah.
So I was soliloquizing. Tell me what you think. I am truly interested in what a wide cross section of people who listen to this show think. So if you've never commented before, I'm imploring you to comment on this one, because this is something that is not only personally interesting to me, but I think it's an issue that our society must resolve. Because if we don't come up with, in many cases, about cell phone use, and we kind of have those now. Who on with his Bluetooth earbud in, yelling at an society now all agrees he's a jerk, and we're kind of all shunned. It, for the most part, people know not to do that. So society had to adjust technology, and I think that society can only adapt at a given rate. That humans can adapt past X, whatever X is, and X to the fourth. And so see, I'll handle on this now. Technology is going to force, and I think that the way things are going right now, technology always favors openness and favors aggregation of data. Right now in our tech, sort of, I don't even thinking, early on there was industrialism. Take an analog process and make it a mechanical, or an organic process and make it mechanical. Then there was digitization. Take an analog, take a unique process and make it amalgamated. So now that we're past the digital age, we have digitized our lives. The analog is now the obscure. So now we're getting to the point where we want to aggregate everything. And so the silo is going to become the obscure. And so we have to wrestle with this, and we have to come to grips with it's going to break. And I don't know how to get past that. I don't know. In my lifetime, there's going to be some serious pressure exerted when either all need something's unknown. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm thinking I'm extemporizing here, and Seth, I'm way off the reservation, and so it's not Seth's fault because he has nothing to say about this. I'm totally going off the page here.
Yeah, and just between the two of us, you adapt to change a lot more than I do.
True.
So I mean, a lot faster rate.
I am Brita.
But I will make the random embrace of something that nobody else ever thought of. But so it's differences in people. I'm the slow plotter type person when it comes to a lot of things like that. I'm not the Flash. I'm more like Hulk smash his way through life rather than the Flash trying to outrun everyone. So
and you're right. I mean, you've known me a long time. Change just because it's change,
right?
And I don't necessarily need it to be better. But I also recognize that I am, I'm a pioneer, right? And the pioneers get shot in the back. The pioneers take the arrows, and I sometimes I come back home with arrows sticking out of me.
Right.
And that's something I'm willing to do. But in the education world and in the job I have right now, before I try to introduce a change, I want to make sure that change is not only better, but is way better. Before I even go there, because I recognize that there has to be value to change. But in my own life, in my own little microcosm, I embrace change for the sake of change, and I will step backwards in productivity for the sake of change as long as I understand that backwardness in productivity is temporary. So that's why I'm willing to work with experimental things. So that's why I'm willing to load version of software on my home theater system and actually take a step back in functionality, because it gets me on a track that's going to go forward faster. And I'm the pioneer spirit in that. And I understand I'm unusual. So I don't think that my attitudes about publicness are abnormal. And I don't think that yours are either. We represent different ends of the spectrum, and the rest of the world is somewhere in between the two of us. So listeners, tell us where you are in between the two of us. And you can do that at elementop.com. Click the top and email edl@elementop.com. Or you can call us 559-IAM-OP. That's our Google Voice number. Leave us a message. And there. So I didn't really have any time for news because, my gosh, I dragged this out a long time. It was all me, and I get it. So, Seth, tell us what happened this week in history.
Okay. August the 7th, 1944, IBM dedicates the first program-controlled calculator, the automatic sequence-controlled calculator, best known as the Harvard Mark I. And I had to go to Wikipedia and look it up, and I just want to read this a little bit about it. The automatic sequence-controlled calculator, Harvard Mark I, was the first operating machine that could execute long computations automatically. The project was conceived by a person at Harvard University, and the Mark I was built by IBM engineers in New York. A steel frame, 51 and 8 feet high, held the calculator, which consisted of an interlocking panel of small gears, counters, switches, and control circuits, all only a few inches in depth. It used 500 miles of wire with 3 million connections, 3,500 multipole relays with 35,000 contacts, over 2,000 counters, and over 1,000 tent pole switches, and tiers of 72 adding machines, each with 23 significant numbers. It was the industry's largest electromechanical calculator, and your smartwatch can probably run circles around this computational ability.
Everything about that, everything you said was analog. This was not a digital device. This was pre-digital.
Right. But it was one of the first ones that like didn't use punch cards. It could kind of run a program versus just accepting the punch data. So it was used by the Navy near the end of World War II. So wow, I mean, it's freaking huge, and it was a humongous breakthrough for its day. In a lot of ways, the Harvard Mark I represented the Babbage difference engine that you're like dusting off your computer literacy going, why do I recognize that name? In a lot of ways, it was the fulfillment of that happened in 1944.
I'm in the market for a new phone. And I've been looking at specs, right? And I'm looking at flagship quality phones just because. And so the stuff I've been looking at is like, but I'm trying to decide, do I want 3 or of RAM? The 64-bit processor is a given. How many cores do I want? Do I want to consume less battery life and run cooler? Or do I want to go ahead and step that up to a 4-core processor and storage space? Do I want 6 things that I'm all decide not really probably cost the equivalent of $1 trillion in today's numbers, and was the size of a small house quickly.
There was a big debate because of the encasing they built cost $50,000 during the war, and there's a lot of people said that money, go with a cheaper casing. That money and that material can be better utilized in the war effort. So you got to think they're gearing, when this is being built and designed, they're gearing up for D-Day, and they're thinking, $50,000 worth of metal and material working. That's a lot of artillery shells and maybe a tank. But no, we're using it to house a calculator.
Yeah, a tank is probably a good analogy. It probably weighed about the same as a tank, and it was a calculator.
Yeah.
And but now they give those out at convention centers. Solar-powered calculators are just a swag thing that they throw out at you.
Yeah, you find them along the side of the road. And one of the things about the Harvard Mark I, they used it to compute whether the implosion method would be better than the gun method for the atomic bomb. So, it he was able to do it much faster over that, I guess, than by hand. So,
yeah, fascinating. When I was at the Rocket Center last weekend, one of the things they had was Wernher von Braun's slide rule. And I showed my kids, look, see that? That used to be a calculator. and you would move the numbers up. And I don't even know how slide rule works. I couldn't even explain to him how it works, but it was when you needed to do math, you use that ruler and you move things back and forth. It was one step above the abacus in terms of portability. And look at where we are 70 years later. That's all. 70 years later.
Okay, Google, what's
yeah, that would be fascinating. You put one of the calculations that the Mark I did answer.
Yeah.
This stuff is amazing. And where are we going to be 70 years from now? Like I said earlier, it's an exponential curve. We're not twice as fast this year as we were last year. We're squared this year as we were last year. Fascinating stuff. Okay, Seth, what about your show closing spectacular?
Okay, this is a website I found a while back, ebombsworld.com. It's just a place you can go and, it's one of those, hey, here's 17 quotes from sort of famous people. Here's how not to do a squat at the gym. There's just stuff like that on here. It's a place, kind of a bubblegum for the brain type thing. And it's just a cool little site. I came across it.
And it's blocked by OpenDNS, by the way. I clicked that link.
Really? Wow.
This domain is blocked due to content filtering. Who knew? This site was categorized as video sharing, humor, adult themes, lingerie/bikini. And because I have young kids in the house, I don't allow those.
Lingerie/bikini. I don't spend a ton of time on this site, but I've never seen like boobs or blatant cussing. So, I mean, there's been none of the bad cuss words. The unbad cuss words you see everywhere now, they're on here as well. But so, yeah, but there's like bikini and lingerie type stuff.
Cool. And I cut you out of that last week, just totally forgot. So I wanted to make sure I got it this year, even though we're, another hour and a half show. I was thinking, this is a fairly light discussion. It's just the two of us here. To be a fairly short show. We did no news and it's still an hour and a half long. It's me. I am the problem.
Well, I mean, I set you up. I hit every buzzword that would cause you to rant.
You did.
So,
and it's fascinating because you all use the same argument. You privacy guys. It's like you get together, and you probably have a fax line, right? Because you don't trust email, and you're sending a fax circle around and saying, hit this point. When he raises this one, ask this question.
No, we use dead drops because we don't trust fax.
There's an old mailbox down on Oak Post Road. Yeah, that's awesome. Just a quick aside. You ever wonder how cities and roads like that get their name? Like out where I used to work, there's a city called Telephone. So it's pretty easy to tell where that came from. It was the first telephone in the area. So it actually became the name of the city. Well, as we were driving out to Alabama, we passed a city called Walls of Jericho. That's not really a legacy that I think I want to name my city after.
Yeah, Walls of Jericho. I would not know why you would call your city Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, Walls of Jericho, Alabama.
For the same reason, I don't know why you would name your child Jezebel today. So...
All right, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging with us. And I really do look forward to your feedback. You're Seth. Chris should be back with us next week. And I've been promising guests, and it's my fault. I just haven't gotten them scheduled. But there will be more than just me being bombastic in the near future. We have a couple of guests lined up. I'm looking forward to that. And as always, we need to know. We don't need to. We would like to know what your topics are. What would you like to have us discuss? And if you want to come on, I'm inviting you onto my airwaves. Isn't the right word? My bits. No, that sounds bad. I'm inviting you onto my show. If you've got a topic,
if you want to surf our stream,
if you've got a topic you feel passionate about and you want to come and talk about it, hey, send us an email. We will certainly entertain that. And ideally, if you spoke English, that would be great. But thanks for listening. And for now, I'm going to say that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
Happy bicentennial episode, everyone.
We need some sort of bicentennial anthem or something.
Da, 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 da. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's about it.
We don't want to have to. I guess we wouldn't have to pay royalties for that particular one.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, YouTube viewers, they were I appreciate this and later.